Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Wolf Den, presented by Win Again Academy. I'm Matt Wolf, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we have Brandon Steiner joining us on the Wolf Den. Happy to have you here. How's everything going?
Everything's good. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Love the name. I love it. And it's crazy times, and this is the time when leadership and um you got to have a lot of empathy. There's a lot of people going through a lot. It's not a straight line of the problems. They're so wide, and so you got to be on your A game to get through these kind of times. And we will get through these times. So that's kind of like my focus. Stay healthy. You got to take care of yourself first in order to take care of others. So, staying safe, being smart, and then just keep grinding. Don't use excuses, because excuses are the common denominator for all mediocrity and failures. So it's a million excuses about, but there's still plenty of opportunity, plenty of work to be done, plenty of people that need work to be done. So, I say take action over anxiety. Get busy, make your
Yeah,
bed,
it's
clean your closet up, and touch base with people you haven't spoke to in a while, that kind of thing.
yeah, always good advice. And we're going to get into a lot of that, including mental health, which I know you're an advocate for. But for the people in the audience who don't know who you are, give just a real brief introduction, and then we'll get into everything and background and what you're working on.
Well, obviously, I've been in the sports collectible business for about 35 years. I've been marketing athletes, from just about every big name you could ever imagine, for marketing, helping companies grow through the use of athlete marketing is kind of like my specialty. The collectibles, people know me from Steiner. I'm not at Steiner Sports anymore. Now I have my new company, Collectible Exchange and Athlete Direct, where it's a really big marketplace where people are buying and selling memorabilia. And you're also able to buy from athletes directly. So those are my two new companies that I started like 2 years ago now. I'm always big on social media. I've written 3 books. Uh, go on my website now and get a copy of one for free. Just go to Collectible Exchange or AthleteDirect.com. Get a free book, Living on Purpose. You got to have balls, or the Business Playbook, which I'd get into, but I don't want to kill your time promoting the book. But all 3 books are really different, unique, and have definitely a good vision as far as, my goal was to try to help people kind of, uh, help motivate them to, to really inspire them on their entrepreneur spirit. The first book, The Business Playbook, get people just building their brands, particularly high school and college kids. And Living on Purpose is like, what do you do when you have a little success? How do you prepare for when you get a little older, and make sure that these last years that you're working and alive are productive and efficient and effective. So I'm always busy. I'm holding off on this next book, although I have a really big idea for one, because I'm really locked in and focused on this new company. Because I know there's a lot of people out there that still need athletes. So many new companies out there. So I'm doing a lot of deals, more ownership, partnership deals with athletes to help market their new companies, their online companies. And then also, the Collectible Exchange has 140,000 items on there, and I have 80 microsites built for players. So I'm really, I feel like I'm 20 years old again. I'm busy, and I'm just starting up. I'm just figuring things out and trying to figure out what people are looking for. So it's been a really exciting time, even though I think, when I've been able to travel a lot, so I've used my time to keep busy and try figuring out this new business out a little more than I probably would have.
Yeah. So what's the big major difference between what you're doing now and what you built at Steiner Sports, which was you were a pioneer in the memorabilia business, became one of the largest memorabilia companies around. Collectibles are a little bit different now than they were back then, and we'll get into that. But what would you say the major difference is for collectible exchange?
I mean, two things is that I'm partners with the players. So instead of hiring them, that I'm their partner, and I help them create their collectibles, and they get most of the money, and they're able to sell whatever they want to sell on the site the way they want to sell it. And then the collectible exchange is a sheer marketplace. So instead of me creating a whole bunch of product and then selling it, I'm helping other people sell their products. Kind of Alibaba, like I want to be the consummate website for the coolest and widest amount of collectibles, and let the market take its place. So there are a lot of baby boomers that were incredible savers, but I realized, and that's the problem I was trying to solve was, there are people that are collecting at probably the highest level now than ever before. I know I put 30 million collectibles out in the marketplace myself, maybe more. Where do you get, if you want to sell those, you want to liquidate, where do you do that? And the only real place to do that is on eBay. And I don't feel that was a site that did the category justice. So, we help authenticate, we help evaluate, tell you what you have and what it's worth, show you how to sell it. And then you have some auction houses, but unless you got like a really high end item, the auction houses really don't want to bother with you. So we're really taking care of a lot of people that are sitting with, there's a lot of people sitting with a lot of collectibles, and now there's a marketplace that's really coming around that if people want to trade up, trade in, sell. And I think that's just not what I was doing at Steiner. But at Collectible Exchange, what I've realized, when you get caught up and you start reading your own clippings, I think I'm a pretty good collector. And I think that I've done a lot of really cool things in the business, but there's a lot of amazing people out there that are doing a lot of amazing collectible projects. They just don't have the voice or the platform, and I'm giving it to them with Collectible Exchange. And some of those products are as good as those products and projects are as good as anything I've ever come up with. So as much as my ego doesn't love to admit that, it's true. I mean, there's some amazing people out there that are adding to the industry. And my job, I feel, is to collaborate all that to make it easy for the consumer to go really get a really wide variety of products at a wide variety of prices.
Yeah. So when we talk about the athletes that you're working with, are they selling the stuff that already exists? Are they creating new stuff for people to buy? Is there a break? Do you have an idea of
Yeah,
what
the,
the
the,
breakdown
the
on that
athletes
is?
are selling, they're creating their own stuff. Like we just did a Mo bar, which will launch in a couple of months. So they're selling actually an energy bar or a water. And they're selling the game used stuff right out of their locker. Their sneakers, jerseys, shirts, all kinds of stuff. So there's a really wide variety of stuff that a player can choose from and decide to sell. One of the unique things we're doing also is we put together a collective marketplace with a whole bunch of the best women athletes on the planet. Sue Bird, Tarasi, Megan, Mia Hamm. So we're excited about that. No one's ever done a full line of women collectibles. To be honest with you, I have no idea if it's going to work, but I think it's worth investing in. I think the women are amazing. And so far, the results have starting to prove me right. It's going to take a little while because people are not used to collecting women athletes. But when you look at some of the greatness out there with some of the players that we've had, we're talking about the golden era of women in sports. We've even missed some of it, but the fact that we get to see a Serena Williams still play, the fact that we got to see a Mia Hamm or a Megan Rapinoe or a Sue Bird or Tarasi play, I mean, these are some of the greatest women athletes of our time. I figured it was worth an investment in putting a collection together around those athletes, and so far so good.
Yeah,
Um,
I got a great Mia Hamm story. I was with my friends at a sports weekend. We go to a different city every year and go to Major League Baseball, pro football, and college football. And we've been doing it for 20 years. Friends I grew up with, and we're in Chicago to go to a Bears game. And we're walking to the stadium, and all of a sudden I look up and I see Mia Hamm. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's Mia Hamm. And I go, so there's people walking behind her, and we go up to the lady who knew her, and like, is that Mia Hamm? And the lady's like, no, I don't know. And I'm like, well, obviously you were just with her. You would know if it was. Anyway, we caught up to her at a light on the corner and snapped a photo with her. Really, really nice. Obviously,
Big sports fan,
one of the
such a
great.
great person. Was such a great, and she's really a great inspiration because not only because her play was so incredible from North Carolina to USA, but she really was an initiator of getting women's sports to another level back in the late '90s, early 2000s. I got to watch a World Series game with her. We went to the Subway Series, Mets Yankees. I got to spend a little time getting to know her, and just an amazing talent and worth collecting. I mean, just a lot of greatness. Love Brandy Chastain, worth collecting. Nancy Lieberman, one of the great, golden. I mean, what an athlete back in the day. If you obviously you'd be a little older to know, but I mean, I knew Nancy, 30, 40 years ago when, guys were walking up, everybody wanted to play her one-on-one. And she actually played in like what the G League would be now. She actually played with all men's league on that level and held our own.
Yeah, I mean,
It's crazy.
we're not going to compare men to women, but there are
No, no.
women
Well, that's the
who are
mistake
great
everybody makes.
who can compete in there. It's not, I don't know. It's hard to, obviously you're not going to go, but it's just hard to say, the difference. They can compete. That's all I say. They can
Yeah,
compete. They
I
can
don't
come
think
out.
there's no comparison. I mean, men are bigger, stronger, but the women game is amazing. I mean, I'd rather watch a women's tennis match than a men's,
I
but the
think
women and
so.
men's game is different. I don't compare them, but the women's game is amazing. A women's soccer game is amazing. It's not the same as the men's, but it's still extraordinary. It's played on a very high quality, high level, which
And
is the point. I think the women it'll come around. I think people are starting to really appreciate the women's game a lot more. It's still got a lot more work to be done, but it's on its way at least. It's making progress, and the women, they've earned it. They deserve it, and it's just a matter of time till we start really appreciating it and not take it for granted.
And part of it is that there's so many options out there to watch. I'll admit I watch women's World Cups and Olympics and big time stuff, but the average day to day stuff I don't because I'm watching other stuff or I'm doing other things. So it's always going to be a struggle to get the eyeballs on there. But when the product gets better and the people become more recognizable and the personalities become bigger, I think that's when you're going to start to see it increase a little bit. Speaking of women, Rachel Balkovic, I don't know, I probably creamed her name, announced as a Yankees manager. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know that much about it, and what the Yankees were thinking. They're always trend setting, the Yankees, so I give them a lot of credit. They're always seem like they're one step ahead on everything, and I'm sure she's more than qualified. I think it's gonna be a good story, and it's another scenario of, just. I mean, I just saw Becky Hammons get the coaching job in Vegas. I really wanted her to be the first NBA coach. I think women can
I think she
actually
will
would
be.
be an advantage of coaching in the NBA. I think rather than these coaches yelling at these guys, probably what they really need is probably a softer, hey, by the way. And there's some women that are definitely capable of it. So I think it's the first of a lot more women coaches that we'll see. I mean, let's face it, women are a lot smarter than we are. They just are. They're just better at just about everything. So why not in coaching?
No, I bet
I'm all right with it. I've come to grips with it. Like, women are
the
just better,
majority of
smarter.
sports and success is based on mental and intelligence of the game, whether you played or not. If you know the game, you know the game. So I think it's going to be fine. You grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up in New Jersey. It's kind of a weird dynamic when you're in the sports world. Like, how do you become a Yankee fan, a Met fan, a Jets, or a Jets or Giants? You obviously gravitated towards the Yankees. How did you become a Yankee fan? What was the sports influence in your life that made you want to be a part of it?
We went to so many games as a kid. The guys in my neighborhood I'm still friends with all the way back from when I was 8, 10 years old. And we were 8, 9 years old getting on the subway without parental supervision, and that was when Yankee Stadium was a little dangerous and we were going on our own. We assumed we were going to get mugged and robbed. That was kind of part of the day, that some big kid was going to come and kind of take a little bit of our money or whatever. So the Yankee thing just was an amazing to go to the old stadium, and we just go to every bat day. And then I was just a diehard Ranger fan. Loved the Rangers growing up, which is the first collectible company that I started was really with hockey and really Mark Messier. And I've done almost every Ranger back from the 80s all the way up to recent. Um, the football thing was we were all mixed, in my neighborhood. So we really never had a real declaration there. I was a Jet fan growing up, and then I worked so closely with so many Giants at the beginning of my career, particularly with Joe Morris and Lawrence Taylor, Otis Anderson, blah, blah, blah. I hate to say this, but I actually converted to a Giants fan over a Jets fan, which is weird. So I'm not sure I believe in that, but I did do that. I mean, I don't just, I just got off the Jet bandwagon, somehow became more of a Giant fan over the last 25 years. But the fandom thing kind of goes out the window when you get into the business, and that's the one thing I tell people out there. If you're going to get in the sports marketing business and you start dealing with athletes and teams, you're probably going to have to start changing up who you root for. And I generally root for the people that I'm working with. I'm rooting for the guys that are the teams that I'm making money with. So, I'm a big Syracuse guy. Went to school there, so that's like a little more of an objective. Nice, I can just enjoy Syracuse. Although I do a lot of work with Coach Boeheim. Love college basketball. So up until recently, that was kind of neutral. Now that's a moneymaker. So now I'm always thinking. I go to these college games, I always think how I can monetize and make money. So it's you lose a little bit of that being a natural. I've been to thousands of games. Literally, I was going to. I wish I was in my house and I would show you. So I'm going through all my ticket stubs since I was a kid. I've been saving them, and there's thousands. It's insane. And I'm trying to remember all these games I've been to, and you definitely lose a little bit of that spark of fandom when you get into the business part of it. I didn't realize what I was signing up for, because there's nothing like being a fan and just going to a game, just rooting. And now I'm biased. I'm a little conflicted. I'm rooting for the money, and half my brain is thinking about how I can monetize every little thing, which is so I kind of lose a little of the joy of being a sports
Yeah,
fan. That
we always get biased when our team is involved. I'm a big Gator fan, and I actually went to the Army Navy football game, and it was such a pleasure to be at a game that you have no. It doesn't. I mean, I was rooting for. I don't know who I was rooting for, but anyway, I was rooting for a good game, but I didn't care, who won or lost, and just to be a fan and to be around.
Yeah, I was at that game. You're talking about the Meadowlands, right?
Yeah, right here.
There was that was on my bucket list, and I went this past year. I was there too, and it was really a good vibe. It was really special vibe, and you could see the camaraderie about all these officers and all these people that were serving us. They, even though they're rooting a little against each other, obviously with Army, but you see the common bond, the respect. It was special. You understood what it meant and how much pride these people take in serving us. And I'm so grateful that they exist, obviously. But it was special, man. I really went in there without sure what to expect, and that day was really amazing.
Yeah,
I really
it didn't
enjoyed
hurt.
it.
It didn't hurt that the weather was great that day
Yeah.
too for December, and we were out there tailgating and watching, hanging out with people who are, fans of each team. But a lot of people, when you're a fan of the team, a lot of these people are either in service or they're related to someone who's in service, which is, it's good conversations to have to really hear their stories behind, which is much more important, obviously, than the game. And so appreciative of those people. You talk about all the tickets that you've kept. We're obviously a commemorative ticket company, big on keeping the printed memory alive. What did you collect as a kid, memorabilia wise, that maybe drove you to get into the business, or was that something you didn't really collect, but then you thought, oh, maybe I wish I would have collected, and that's why you did it?
No, I wish I would have collected, but I could get my hands on the stuff. I mean, that was what really drove me. It's like, man, it'd be great to get those sneakers that guy's wearing. Couldn't even find them in the store, let alone getting the actual sneakers. So that was always my thing. It's like, if I could replicate that jersey, it'd be nice to have it. That's cool. And then back when I was a kid, you couldn't even buy it in the store. So immediately I knew that would have a big impact. My ticket stubs, I saved them all. Mets, World Series, Yankee games. I have so many scorecards, and all that stuff was fun. And then that's what gave me the idea of creating the ballpark, the stadium collectibles. Lineup cards, the bases, the balls, the outfield fence, the telephone, the actual telephone in the bullpen, all that stuff. So I love tickets. I've always loved ticket stubs. I didn't think I was collecting them and thinking they would ever have any value. But now that there's no more tickets, which is true, people are starting to collect tickets. It's amazing. So, and I've got a lot of them to, get my site kicked off. And then people now have been sending me a lot of ticket stuff. So I know I'm not alone in my craziness.
No, the ticket stub collectible business has really taken off in the way that the baseball cards has, and the advantage of the ticket holders are they're a lot more rare. There's a lot more cards than people who've kept those ticket stubs in pristine. I kept stubs, but I probably lost a ton of stubs and didn't really at the time think, oh, this was some type of milestone, whether it was a debut or anything like that. But it kind of brings me to the topic of what is a collectible and the world of collectibles now as opposed to what it was before, because now it seems a lot more like it's speculation and, hey, I'm buying this because it has value to it. monetary value to it, and I think it's going to be worth a lot more money. Kind of takes a little bit away from the true collectible aspect of it, like, hey, I was there, or this is my favorite team, my favorite player. I'd really like to have that. Is that what you're seeing out there?
Well, there is, it's unfortunate because, I think people use that word a little too loosely. Collectible is something that, and first and foremost, is there's more demand than supply, and there's no ability to create more supply. That gets into the real hardcore collectible. Is there's something that you have, but it's probably never going to be more printed, made. And sometimes people get that. Sometimes people don't. That was always the hardest part when I'm creating a collectible line of products is how do I go create something, make something, and not have enough? So the people that do get it have some value because they've got something no one else can get. And then when they want to sell it, it's not like there's more coming because that's it. And I think that sometimes people forget that you're not making T-shirts. There's a limit. It's one of my problems with like Zania shirts. Like it's like, I wear Zania shirts, but I can't how many times I've walked into a room at an event and somebody else is wearing my shirt. And how special is it when you see somebody else have it? And I think that's what really drives people with collectibles is that they have something that someone else doesn't. And also memorabilia is about a memory of a moment. Memorabilia that you think about the word broken down. So, listen, I've always been about the moment, great moments, and we don't know when those moments are going to happen. So a lot of the great collectibles are around moments that nobody anticipated happening, whether it be a famous home run, a touchdown, the USA Olympic. I mean, do you think people remembered to save their ticket stuff? They're at that 80 Olympic game, but they're very hard to find, or anything from that game. Even the players didn't save a lot of their stuff. So I think sometimes things get blown out of proportion. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation around these NFTs. That's also a little confusing about how that's going to play out. I think ultimately it will help the collectible business because, anytime you put a blockchain and add in more authentication to a collectible, to a product, it helps and increases the value. Question is defining that NFT and how wide and how far that goes. And some people have definitely gone out on a limb on some really questionable stuff that I don't really understand how they consider that to be valuable. So, but at some point there'll be a physicality and a digital experience that will make sense, match up, be reasonably priced. Some of that will go up, some of that won't, but you got to still have some enjoyment out of the item. I always say collect things that you enjoy, that you like, moments that you want to remember. And then if it goes up in value, great, so be it. But you have still something you can keep reliving and rethinking in your head. That's always been kind of my mindset about creating products. The NFT thing, I still haven't figured out yet. I'm on it, I'm learning. And I think there's some people that are just kind of in there, like always, like everything,
Oh,
trying to just create
it's
a
the Wild
stir. But
West.
I'm in it for real. And like when I go out with my NFT game plan, it's going to be for real, and it's going to be able to guide people to something that makes sense, not just doing something for the sake of doing it. Because the collectible business has been my life, and we you take that kind of leadership role, which I feel like I have in the collectible business. I want to be authentic about it, and I don't want to steer people any other direction other than the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, if you're collecting and you want memorabilia, again, the difference between doing it for the money because you want to sell it, and like I don't need anyone to tell me that this ticket here got me into the game. I know I was there, I used it. So from that point of view, you don't really care. But if you have something that is valuable, like it's, I guess you're talking about the demand. People want it, and you might not want to sell it, but then all of a sudden this stuff it's only worth what someone will pay. The same with anything else, right? It's worth what someone will pay. There's a market that kind of says, and that market keeps going up now. People overpaying for things, whether it's a baseball card or a ticket or housing, whatever it is, because they want it, and the people can, they can afford it mostly. Um, you know, it's uh, it's just a different game for me. And one of the reasons I got into Ticket Time Machine is because it's the memories. We're keeping the printed memory alive, and I think that's sports has that ability to really give a memory. Like, hey, when did I go to the last game with my dad, who's no longer here, or the first game I went to? Every time you look at something, it really just brings back that feeling, and it's hard to throw away. I'm a hoarder of things, memorabilia and collectibles, um, but a lot of people are wanting that to
I'm a
have.
fan. I mean, I've been trying to go back. My friends and I were going back to certain games we were at where certain things happened. I mean, we're talking about 1968, 69. I was looking at a game. I was at the six overtime game, like at the Garden. Took me about 2 days to go find those ticket stubs. My son and I were at that game. There's just so many things that happen when you go back, and it's nice. I love your idea. I mean, but what's funny is I was always particular about my ticket stubs. I always saved them, even as a kid, like just instinctive. Like I was just born for this. Even when I was back, at 17, 18 years old, I'm saving my ticket stubs. Who does that?
Apparently, a lot of people did because the market's going a little bit nuts right now. Do you have a game that sticks out that was like maybe one of your favorite experiences?
Oh, there's no question. I mean, I've got my top five games. It's the Devils Rangers game 7, one of the greatest games of all time. The emotion, having the Devils tie that game with only a few seconds left. Thought we were going to the Stanley Cup, and then going into overtime, double overtime, and Mateau. The first Super Bowl I went to, and I've probably been to about 20 Super Bowls, but the first one, Super Bowl 21, no question, was amazing in Pasadena. Just the whole experience. That was when you could pick up a ticket outside for $75. I went to a Yankee game with my dad. Saw Mickey hit one from the left and the right side. I always want to go to 20-night doubleheader, so you get the day game and the night game in there. It was like a really big deal, and it was one of the few things I do with my dad. So that was kind of cool. And I remember that. I remember the first Ranger game I ever went to with my dad, and just going in and seeing that ice and seeing Madison Square Garden. It was just mind-boggling. Just threw me for a loop. And then the Syracuse 6 overtime game was amazing. I've been to so many hundreds of Syracuse games. That really one of my favorites. And then the Duke Syracuse game, that was insane. The first time we played them, and I think we hit a game-winning shot. I mean, there's just so many moments. Is that the last game at Archibald with Syracuse when they tore Archibald down to build the dome? Is that the first game of the dome? And those days there were no domes. It was like one of the first domes. There we are, breaking out the dome. That
Yeah,
was
it's an
amazing.
iconic venue. And Madison Square Garden, one of them, and not a bad seat in the house there. We've seen a ton of games there. Do you have a favorite venue outside of the New York area that you've been
Well,
to?
I've been to every baseball stadium with my son. It was one of the things we did. Except the one I haven't been to is, believe it or not, is Tampa. I've been at Tampa, but I just never went inside the Tropicana Dome. But I love the Arizona. I love Arizona. I think they do a great job there with a lot of different levels of seating and everything else. Love Fenway Park, special, no question. Um, so many basketball and arenas that I've been to. I mean, I thought the Coliseum, I saw a USC game, a meaningful game. The Coliseum was amazing. The Big House, Michigan. My kid went to Michigan. It's amazing. Awesome. What was the loudest? The two loudest games I've ever been to: Penn State, Michigan, at Penn State. One of
Okay.
the first times they did the all white thing.
Yeah.
And Seattle.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Seahawks.
Insane. A
Yeah.
Seattle game. I'm on the 50-yard line. I tell my kids, like, let's just get seats 50-yard line, low down. We don't have to stand. Could not sit one play, yelling, scream. I mean, that was the loudest NFL game I ever been to, man. Just amazing.
We got there every year when we picked the city to go to our sports trip. That was the number one trip we wanted to go to, but the schedules for like 16 years never aligned. And finally, we went a few years back, a real great environment. I was just at SoFi Stadium for a Rams game this season, and that to me is the nicest venue I've ever been to, the coolest venue.
I got to get there. I
Green and
heard it's
everything.
amazing.
It's I don't even know what's the second close, but baseball for some reason, the experience of going to a baseball, the stadium is such a big part of it. Obviously, growing up where you are, we used to go to Mets and Yankees. Actually, went to a lot of Phillies games too because we were in Central Jersey, so it was easy to drive. And obviously, as you mentioned, the Bronx was a little questionable at the time. I think that Citi Field is a better game watching environment than the Yankee Stadium, but
Yeah, a
Yankee
lot of people
Stadium
say that.
has
Yeah.
the history.
A lot
Yeah.
of people say that. It's a little smaller. It's a little more intimate, no doubt. If you're in the expensive seats, down below, the Yankee thing is incredible for business and networking, and where the Mets don't have the same kind of the same kind of stuff available, the waiter service, the food, and all that. But from an intimacy standpoint, they did a nice job. Both stadiums are amazing, and I just went to New Islander Arena. They did a
Yeah,
nice job. The Garden did a good job in redoing that. Probably my favorite football stadium, and I've been to SoFi, and I also haven't been to the 49er one. But Jerry Jones did an amazing job with Dallas. That stadium is amazing. Was there for the first game ever in that stadium, and they had a partnership with the Cowboys, so we went to a bunch of games there, and they went to Super Bowl there when the Packers beat the Steelers. It was pretty cool, pretty good stadium. Really, really did it. Jerry Jones did a great job with that arena, and it's still continuing. Nobody uses the stadium better than he does.
yeah, I agree with that. I
It's
actually been
smart.
to pro and college there. I'm not a big fan. I think it's too big.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
screen is a little bit obnoxious. Wait till you see the SoFi. The way they do the screen is it's
That's the
pretty.
problem with Dallas. Like once you look up on the screen, I'm in the third row, 50-yard line. I'm watching the game on the screen. I mean,
Yeah,
something's wrong. The screen's just amazing. And I heard SoFi is just insane.
yeah.
You
It's
know
and
what?
what was-
I love the Dallas stadium. It's got Diet Dr Pepper on tap. That's probably where Diet Dr Pepper comes from. But it's just amazing how that's evolved, and this is what team owners wanted. They wanted games to be more than the games. They wanted to be full days worth of experience, shopping, all kinds of different fan interactions. That's kind of the theme of what owners wanted. They want to capture all the revenue. They didn't want you going anywhere before and after the game. They wanted the full experience, and they wanted to take all your money from it as well. And they've done a nice job, and they've
they've
spent the
done a
money
good
to do
job
it.
with it. Yeah, it's entertainment too. I mean, the
Yeah.
teams. You look at what's going on here in the Dolphins. That's more of an entertainment and an event than it is. I don't even know what they're doing on the field. Full disclosure, I'm not a Dolphin fan, so I like
Well,
to.
the one thing, we didn't talk about this, but and I try to say this, listen, I'm living in a world of way, way over the top of my sports intake. But what I tell people all the time that are fanatical fans is that it's really hard to win. It's really hard to win in sports. It's really hard to win a championship in sports. The competition, the money being spent, and then this. You got to remember, when I was a kid, there was definitely nowhere near as many teams as there are,
Right.
and it's just really hard to win. And if you're a fan that's only counting on championships, you're missing it. I look at my team. If they're competitive, they're playing really hard, they win some games I wasn't sure they were going to win. They get into the kind of towards the final dance. I just want my emotions. I want to be. I want to know that I'm investing in something that the team and the players are investing in as well. And that's my guide. Like, that's one of the reasons why I love Coach Boeheim. Like, I know I'm going to go into a Syracuse season, may not work out great. I don't care if we win a championship. I want to make sure that we're going to the dance. We got a shot.
Yeah.
Like, what drives me crazy as a fan of the Giants, like, we haven't won in over 10 years, and they've been really bad. Like, that's problematic to me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that sucks. Like it's hard. That's the fandom part of it that really stinks. Is when your team's been really, really bad for a long time. Like, that's problematic to me. Like, if you're gonna bring out some kids and be competitive, show some life, get better next year, get even better. Maybe make the playoffs. Maybe make a run, beat some teams you're not supposed to beat. I'm good.
That's the difference between the top. Like when you've tasted it and you're close, then you get a little bit too. When you're in that middle of the pack and you're like, I don't, we're not probably going to win, but it's great to follow and we win some games we shouldn't, and maybe we make the tournament.
But what adults have to realize is this: when you're 10 years old, all you care about is one thing. How did your favorite player play that day? And did your team win that day?
Yeah,
You weren't 10 years ago, I'm disappointed this team didn't win a championship. You just want to know, did your player play well? The guy you're rooting for, the woman you're rooting for, and did your team win that day? And I think I try to go back to that 10-year-old mindset. I'm happy today because I'm a Georgia fan and my team won. That's all I care about. Like, it's like, and I try to be more in that mindset. Did my team play well? Was it entertaining? Great. I'm not worried about whether my team can win a championship or not because there's 32 teams and only one's going to win. 31 people are going to be disappointed. So why don't we get caught up in that rhetoric?
No, it's tough. It is. It's very tough to win, and certain leagues and sports are tougher than others, especially when there's a dominant team at the top. Even in your own division, right? You could be the second
Yeah.
best team in the whole league and not get where you need to go because
That,
the team.
that's
Yeah,
my big argument with Derek Jeter. I have this argument with him all the time. He's like, if you don't win it all, if you're not the last team standing, I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I just don't agree with that. He goes, yeah, but you lost, and I hate losing. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot of winning that went on to get to the finals, to get to the semifinals. Like, there's a lot of winning that went on to win enough games to go to the playoffs, and there's a lot. There should be joy with that.
yeah.
And I understand about wanting to win it all and being driven to do that, but I think that's a bad sentiment to fans that if you don't win it all, then the season was a waste. I'm just not a fan of that. There's a lot of good takeaways in every season with most teams, and
Well,
you should
that's
focus on that.
that's probably common with the athletes like a Jeter, who's so when you're so used to winning, it's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah.
I have friends who used to collect and maybe still do. They would go and get autographs, and the people would give their batting gloves. How has that changed now? Because there's so much money involved with that stuff that the players have to kind of be toe the line between being accessible to the fans in general, and then there's obviously value to that in selling it, whether it's through your company or elsewhere. So,
I mean, I think that what's amazing, and I like to think I have an impact on it, there's so many players that are big collectors, and hopefully I'm giving them an opportunity to sell their stuff in a much more smarter, classy way. So you're seeing players probably give away a lot less. They're more protective of their stuff because they know there's value there. And a lot of them are hoarders and a lot of them are saving it. A lot of them are calling me going, I've got 250 bats in my garage and my wife is killing me. I got to get rid of these. So, it's one thing to hoard and collect. It's another thing to have a strategy to dissolve and sell that stuff because sometimes too much is not good either.
right. Yeah,
As my wife got on my case, like, hey, you got to get rid of some of this stuff. It's too much.
yeah,
So
you just
I'm
can't
trying to
display it
find.
so much. It is. I got boxes here. The players used to talk about like feeling bad for a player if they had to sell their stuff because they had to make money. But now I guess it's more of, hey, we just have all this extra stuff. It's not necessarily about the money. We're not going to get rich, but give it to other people and get rid of it. Is that the difference?
Yeah, I think that when you get to a high level of playing, just anybody who goes and plays in the major leagues, you're not sitting there after your career's over and dwelling on all those games you played, the success you have. It's not really all that. If you're not doing, for us, I look at it like, how could you sell that World Series trophy? Because that's in the past. You're moving on to something else. And I think for a lot of the players they'd probably rather have the money to set up their grandchildren, their children, and also not clutter their house with the past.
Yeah, that's
So
good way to look at life. I definitely, I hold on to stuff because they have memories. I mean, they're not as valuable. They're more valuable to me and valuable to no one else, which makes it tough. It's
you're
tougher,
not alone, my friend. You're not
tougher to get
alone.
rid of. Two more questions. You have a bucket list sporting event that you haven't been to?
Not much. I mean, I got to Europe, got to some soccer games, got to Russia, got some Russian hockey in me. The Army Navy was on that list. So, I'm pretty much hit. I'm definitely not like caught up in, wow, I wish I could go to more games. I'm actually trying
Yeah,
to cut back a little bit because I've just been to so many games and I'm trying to diversify and get more into more theater with my wife and rock concerts, even though I always love going to those shows. So it's funny you say that. I really would like to go to Kentucky and Indiana, catch a basketball game there. I really would like to go to a Florida State game or a Florida Georgia game.
yeah. Well, I would recommend
That's
it
on my
for
list.
you.
Some SEC football, while it's really semi-pro football. Anyway, I don't want to get too great on it. There is no such thing college football anymore. Division One. That's semi-pro football. I call it. I call it minor league football. That's exactly what college football is, with all these guys getting paid. But the bucket lists are probably more collegiate. I wanted to go watch a game at UCLA too. I never did, and go to the old Pauley Pavilion.
Yeah,
That would have been really fun for me. But I definitely got to get to Kentucky, Indiana, and want to get to that whole Florida, Ole Miss, got to go see some of those SEC schools. I haven't done that. My son's been doing it, and I'm pissed at him because he's been doing it without me. But I'm ready to jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah, I've been to every school but Ole Miss in the SEC, and then I go to the Florida Georgia game. It's a
It's
scene,
crazy, right?
really a great experience. And if you're not a fan, you probably enjoy it more.
Yeah.
We lost this year, but we won the year before, so it feels a lot better when you win. But it's still a fun time, no matter what. We're gonna let you out of the Wolf Den with the same question we give everybody. You can spend a day with anybody in the world. They have to be alive, and you can't be related to them. Who would it be, and what would you do? Obviously, someone you don't know that you can't just call up and hang out.
I think I'd spend the day with Oprah. It's either gonna be Oprah or Warren Buffett, but I'm thinking, I've been a huge Oprah fan. I've stolen more ideas from her and followed her forever. And I'm like more on her level of entrepreneurship because I like the fact that she's made a gazillion dollars, but I love all the good that she does and using the power and influence to help others. So it would probably be Oprah.
Now, we didn't even get to talk about mental health, which I'm a big fan of. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about same here, maybe off on another day. The charities that you've been doing a lot of work with charitable stuff. Is there something that you're real proud to be a part of and to champion for?
I mean, I'm really championing even more now than ever, getting behind other athletes who can make a bigger difference than what I could do, and getting behind their charities so that they can do more and make a bigger difference, knowing how I know how to market and knowing that I know how to promote, and particularly know how to do that pretty well with charities. There's an art to that, and I've been on a whole bunch of different boards, so I've been trying to use my skills to teach charities how to market themselves better and how to promote themselves better as a give back of a tool that I can use. I've always been a good fundraiser. I've been doing it since I'm 20 years old. And I'll just say the one thing about mental health, and that is, I think when you're living in a confusing time like this, and just in general, you need to lead your life with empathy and compassion. No matter where you are, we're all equal, and everybody's going through a lot of stuff. The more you get out of your own head and get into other people's heads, feel what other people are feeling, the more help we can all be to each other. And I try to follow that not only personally but in business too. You want to be a great entrepreneur, lead with empathy, lead with common, get into the common person's head, and you'll see the white space. You'll see what's missing and what's needed. And I think right now on a personal level, the more you can understand the trials and tribulations that a lot of other people are going through, um, I think the more effective you could be as a friend and as a manager or somebody that's coaching, because everybody's all over the place. We're on the highest level right now of depression, and people are really bummed for many, many reasons. There's been a lot that's gone on these last few years that have changed a lot of things, not necessarily for the better. And the best way to deal with it is stick together, help each other, and lead with empathy, and give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I agree. Someone posted on LinkedIn the three top things they look for in leadership, and I wrote empathy was one of the top three. So it's to me, it's high up there on the qualities I look for in people and try and portray myself to. You just never know what someone's going through. Information at the bottom: collectibleexchange.com, brandonsteiner.com. Check out the books that he wrote. Get some memorabilia, some Athletes Direct stuff and collectibles, and find them all over social media: Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Get all let's see. Very interested to see what comes with the company. I think it's obviously, collectibles is a thing
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about. So looking forward to seeing what's next in that industry and where you're taking the company. I really appreciate your time here. We got another episode on Thursday, and we'll see everybody later. Have a great night,
Thank you.
Brandon.